questions and ensure that everything goes smoothly and it flows along the way. Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Currently we are spotlighting all the 4 panelists. So I think that the speakers that you see on the screen now is your fellow panelists.
Oh, okay. Can the participants hear us now?
Okay, I guess in the meantime we can wait for the rest of the audience to come in first. In the meantime, you can just chill.
Yeah, I think we'll start the event when we have more participants. And in the meantime, for the participants, right, yeah, do follow us on our social media, as you can see in the slides. If either Fengru, Kang Liang, Max, or Joanna, if you want to follow us in social media, also you're welcome to do so.
Absolutely. Kang, so what does Swappy do?
Oh, it's a bit of a long story. So yeah, we started out as a fully for-profit fintech startup that helps you earn rewards on your credit cards. So if you have a credit card, I will match you to SME the SME wants to buy an item. And then you would do the checkout for them, and then you will earn the credit card points. They would get the item at a discount, of course. So if the bank gives you 5%, you are share. Maybe you keep 3%, you share 2% with the SME. Yeah. So that model was okay. It didn't get like super exponential traction, but we found another. So during COVID-19, we found another opportunity to go into a social kind of model where the same thing happens. You want to earn rewards on your credit cards, but just that you buy things for charities. Yeah, which is why the call to action here on the I think here to buy a. So we have a campaign right now for Children's Day, right? To buy a school bag for children. So you keep the reward points that is a result of the amount of money you give, because we're going to buy those school bags on Shopee or Lazada or whatever it is.
I see. Wow, that's really cool.
Yep. I think it is kind of, semi illegal, stepping on the gray area, right? Where banks may not be too happy with it, but I think the rewards are here to stay. So because of competition, right? So why not just leverage them while we could?
Sure. So are you guys just available in Singapore or in several different areas as well?
Yeah, so right now Singapore, our SME clients are all from Singapore. There have been like requests. I mean, there have been like people telling me to like, hey, just expand out of Singapore, just get it out there and go into other countries. And I'm like, okay, we take it one step at a time. We need to be sure how people procure items here in Singapore first, right? Because before we move to another country and try the market there. Social workers also all from Singapore. I think if we do a cross-border charity model, it's going to get very, very messy.
I see. Makes sense.
Yeah.
How big is your team now?
Myself, I'm a sole founder, so I have 2 other interns.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd love to know a little bit more about Avanade as well.
Sorry?
I'm curious to know, Joanna.
Avanade is not a startup. We are actually a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw that. I looked it up real quick. It's interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So we do solutions mainly on Azure, but they call us the child of Microsoft and Accenture, but essentially it's like we have them as parents, but we go our own way. So we do quite a lot of different things in the marketplace under Avanade. Only people like who regularly are in the world of like Azure, they know us very well because I think we're #1 Partner of the Year award for Microsoft. So like all the new innovations from Azure and particularly my space for the IoT space, like for example, like Azure Digital Twins and all that. You know, we have like preview versions, and we also know like the latest tech to actually hit the market. But it's an MNC. It's not like a startup like you guys, which is more cooler.
I think it is an interesting part of an MNC to be in, right?
It is sort of, because like I mean, I only joined Avanade for 1 year. Previously I was in the Netherlands working for Philips for about 13 years. And yeah, I was one of those, like, you know, Singaporeans who cannot listen to instruction kind. So like I the moment I had a chance to leave, I actually left. Yeah, because I was like the horror of my teachers. I graduated from NUS, actually, electrical engineering school. So yeah, but then like yeah, my time there was quite difficult because I wasn't really those like how do you say, I was very creative and I really like different things, to explore different things. Didn't like to read the books, like, you know, the way of working which we are taught here. So that's how I thought was a very interesting discussion that I heard you guys discussing when I came by. Yeah, and then of course one thing led to another, and I was headhunted to the position which I'm now in.
Yeah, really glad to hear your passion and also like your thoughts about what you are doing now. But actually, we haven't really started the event officially, and yeah, we shall start now, I guess.
Oh, okay. so we have to repeat everything.
I really do enjoy your discussions there, and also like know each other. And yeah, maybe we can start the event officially, and also we are going to have the panel discussion later as we have more topics to be discussed. So yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to Developer Student Club Tech for Good Industry Talk. My name is Nathaniel and I'll be your moderator for this panel discussion. And do take note that this Zoom session will be recorded in the form of a live stream on YouTube, and the recording link will be sent out to you all after the session. And next slide. Yeah. The purpose of this Tech for Good Industry Talk is to expose students to industry's insights from speakers with real-world experience and learn about how technology can be applied in various industries. And the theme for these talks is leveraging tech for social good, which ties with DSC's overall mission of Tech for Good. In DSC, we aim to drive positive social change through technology to engage and impact our communities. We seek to empower and equip students with the relevant skills for industry knowledge, and we aspire for our members to give back for the betterment of the society through technology. And next slide. Yeah, these are our events that we will be holding throughout this academic year. And currently in the month of October, we are holding a series of workshops and industry talks. And yeah, sign up if you haven't for our Tech for Good workshops and industry talks that is currently ongoing. And next year, we will also be organizing a hackathon, which you can look out for. And today's talk will be structured as a panel discussion in which the speakers will be given prompt questions revolving around the theme of leveraging tech in their industry and also in doing social good. And we'll then have a Q&A session at the end. We hope that this panel discussion format will give rise to deeper insight as compared to speakers' presentation like other industry talks out there. And while the panelists are discussing, feel free to add in questions that tie in with what the panelists are discussing also. And feel free to unmute and add to the conversation. But if you're too shy to do that, then feel free to also send us your questions through this Slido link in the slide. If you want to remain anonymous and ask something maybe unrelated. And you can also upvote other participants' questions in the Slido link if you have some questions that you would be interested to know more about. And keep in mind that these questions in the Slido will only be answered at the end of the session. Yeah, the link can also be found in the chat of this Zoom session as well. So without further ado, let's kickstart the real panel discussion today. So can we invite the speakers to do a round of self-introduction and also tell us briefly about what you do? maybe we can start from Joanna first.
Yeah, sure. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Joanna, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you guys. I think I mentioned previously, I actually graduated from NUS in 2005, so about 15 years ago. So it's very nice to actually speak to you guys now. So I actually lead up the AI and IoT business for Avanade in growth markets, based in Singapore, and I'm Singaporean. My funky last name is because I'm married to a Dutch guy. I have about like 12, 13 years of experience in the IoT space. I used to work in the Netherlands for Philips, and I did multiple projects globally before, wanting to come back to Singapore with my family. Ask me all the questions you want later on. Very happy to answer. I work on truly the latest cutting edge technologies, which is coming out from Microsoft. So just a bit more about me. I have a very, very young daughter, 2 years old. So everything which I do lately really revolves around my family and my children as well. So nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. And next we have Kang Liang from Shopee.
Yep. Hi everyone. Kang. I run Shopee. So we are a marketplace where so the social good part is kind of one part of our business. The other part of our business is a marketplace where you could use your credit cards, which give you rewards, to purchase items on behalf of SMEs, and you get to keep the rewards. So I think it's a win-win situation the bank is sponsoring a win-win situation for both consumers like me and you and the SMEs, right? And social good came in during COVID-19 when we saw that people can't get by, and we worked with social workers to kind of get social workers to put up items that their beneficiaries need, and we would get people to buy on their behalf. So your rewards are still kept with you, and you get to do good at the same time as well. So it's like donation in kind using your credit card. I can go deeper into what's so special about it later. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with Gift for Good. So I would say that would be the closest similar platform, and probably pure coincidence because of COVID-19, and we all want to bring value to the economy, right? I previously worked in, why is there a Series B services marketplace? Yeah, but I previously worked in Gautim, it's a services marketplace. And why rewards, right? It's because I was the first employee of Shopback as well. So so I think I've always been thinking about how can we keep people loyal and coming back for more value for the society.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing introduction, Kang. Next we have Feng Ru from Turtle Tree Labs. And you can explain about yourself, what you do in Turtle Tree Labs and about the company itself.
Sure. Hi everyone. So my name is Feng Ru, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Turtle Tree Labs. Together with me is my co-founder here, Max. We started this company about 2 years ago, and what Turtle Tree Labs do is quite special. We are the first company in the world that is actually able to use cells to create milk. So without the animal, we are able to create milk from all mammals. So that includes goats, sheep, camels, cows, and even humans. So we are very excited to be able to create an impact to alleviate the reliance on cattle farming and continue giving people what they're used to without harming the planet.
Okay, thanks for your introduction for Feng Ru. Next, we have Max, also from Turtle Tree Labs. Maybe Feng Ru has explained about what Turtle Tree Labs is, but yeah.
Sure. I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself. I'm actually from California. My background actually is in tech. So previously I had a company, for 15 years I had a tech company. And the latest thing we were doing was doing a lot of AI, machine learning, working with a lot of cutting edge technologies as well. Work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies on the digital transformations and of course applying some of the latest tech with them. But a few years ago, I made an exit and decided to come to Asia I love AI, I love cutting edge tech, and I know that Asia is going to be the future. So this is where I wanted to be. And of course, I was invited by Google HQ to give a talk on transformative technologies. And that's where I met Fengru in the crowd. And she was looking for milk of all the things in a tech company. She had a hobby of making cheese. So, and it was like, I can't find good milk here in Asia. These companies you keep talking about, can they make cell-based milk as well? And that's how we first started. Personally, I've always wanted to do something in the sustainability space. I've always wanted to do something to change the world. And really, this is an opportunity for me to take a lot of my leadership skills, a lot of my experience, my team building skills, to be able to do something good for the planet. And I'm very proud to be doing this right here in Singapore.
Yeah, and let me jump in as well. I forgot to mention a bit about my background, backpedal a little bit. My background also in tech. So I know this room has a lot of tech people. So I guess we kind of speak the same language. I studied in SMU, did SIS, and I was working for Google and Salesforce. So how the whole idea started was I was learning how to make cheese several years ago. And it was really hard to find good milk to make cheese. I was around the region. I was in Indonesia, I was in Thailand, and I went to many farms. But I was soon exposed to a lot of contract farming, a lot of antibiotics and hormones that are being pumped into the cows. So Joanna, I think you understand the cheese in Asia is nothing like the ones in Europe.
No, I know, but I know 2 very good cheese shops around my place.
I know one, Cheese Ark.
I live near cheese shop.
Nice. So coming back to Asia, I was quite sad because I couldn't make the cheeses I wanted to make. So when I met Max at Google, I was quite happy. Then we started discussing if there are similar methods like Memphis Meats and Blue Nalu, who are using cells to make meat and seafood. So we're wondering if there are similar methods to make milk. And back then, there were no other companies doing it. So we did a lot of research around this area. We pulled in some scientist friends. So last year, we made some breakthroughs. We filed our patents. And this year, we have 20 over full-time scientists and engineers across 6 different teams.
Oh, that's great. I think it's very good for all the participants to hear such interesting profile and unique profile, like with different backgrounds in different industries. And now that everyone has introduced themselves, let me start with the prompt questions. So I think it will be good if the participants can hear from all panelists, like what is the most exciting thing happening in your field right now? So maybe you can start from Joanna, like, yeah, maybe you can share what is the most exciting thing happening in the IT consultancy industry right now.
Well, there's many exciting things. So when you asked, I actually really started thinking of all the projects which I'm involved in the last week or so. One thing which totally came to my mind was basically the use of digital twins. So digital twins essentially is instead of, instead of putting everything just on paper, we replicate, what could potentially be just something physical into a actual replication on a software. And with that, right, now there are new technologies like mixed reality. Essentially, we connected that to the HoloLens too. And it's absolutely amazing because it's like, I know it sounds like such a geeky thing, but it's like I could wear HoloLens and I could see, like pre-building, how would a building literally be like in front of you. And of course, this building is one thing. One of the few projects which I'm involved in is with children's hospitals. So, to actually build up all these hospitals is actually a much more complex play, right? Because it goes everything from the machinery, to how like each rooms are being built, why they are built, like how the patient room and recovery is going to look like, and so on and so forth. And we can actually input all these different data points and literally replicate it there and there. And we can actually see all like, if we change the lighting, how is it going to look like? If we change, like the different temperature and pressure, how is it going to look like? So yeah, for me, this is really like new. And I think it's going to change the world. I know digital twins is still kind of like in preview right now, but they are really going to focus on getting it to a general release. And also the HoloLens, you know, currently is still kind of like new tech, but there's just so much more like I would say like, you know, opportunities for all this mixed reality stuff. So for me, that's what's a few exciting things which are on my plate right now. I could tell you many crazy things as well, including drones and other stuff, but too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, the way that you term it as digital like twins, like does it mean that we can somehow one day replicate ourselves, like make a simulation of ourselves, then like maybe...
Yeah, actually the answer is yes. There is eventually I think that's going to be the case. We can replicate like ourselves, like just for example, like now we can even replicate our own voice. You know, there is, for example, like Azure Custom Speech, where you know can even train up the engine to speak Singlish, you know, the kind of, you know, accented English which we have. And also, you know, we have custom voice which you can train the engine to listen to how you, for example, Nat, sound like. And then literally, like, instead of you could have this voice repeating what you say. So technology is really going to get into you know, a certain area very soon, I believe.
I think it's interesting. Imagine like today we got online classes and you don't want to attend the class and you just use the replication of yourself.
Yeah, precisely. Just imagine that.
Yeah.
Then you can just like stay there and say, oh, okay, I'm not in class.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting to know about the mixed reality stuff, and I think that's something that we can see in maybe the next 5 or 10 years.
I think 5 years. They like, we already have multiple demos, proof of concepts, and actually actual projects in play right now. I mean, it's not publicly announced, but I'm very sure that in the next 5 years, a lot of this is going to be widespread. For example, like, you know, everything somehow like the Japan in my Japan markets, everything HoloLens 2 seems to be like striking gold there. So I think, you know, we will see a full transformation in the next couple of years, particularly also because of COVID. You know, it's a lot of got to do with people cannot be there. So, you know, we need to remotely support like engineers or field workers in getting them to like fix different stuff. And having this like mixed reality allows people to, you know, to not be there, but be controlled or being assisted in certain different places. So it's it will the I say the whole landscape is going to transform like even more rapidly than before.
I think that's amazing hearing the mixed reality trend is going up very fast, and yeah, really can't wait for the mixed reality technology to be
affordable. I want my own HoloLens too. I've given it to all my guys, but I want my own.
Okay, that's interesting about the IT consultancy. Next, maybe we can also hear about what is the trend in the fintech industry. Like Kang, you can share your thoughts about this.
Yep, sure. Yeah, so if we talk about one trend that, you know, we observe in social good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cell-based milk. No, just kidding. Yeah, I think for finance and bottom of the pyramid in particular, right? What I see is that you know, okay, not bottom of the pyramid, but people are starting to use financial fintech, be it AI, be it whatever tech that we have been using and we've been taking for granted, right? And they are starting to apply it to the bottom of pyramid. So bottom of pyramid is this concept where, you know, 4 to 5 billion of the world live in the bottom of the wealth pyramid, where they don't have access to education, electricity, water, and all that kind of thing. And we are easily, I mean, Singapore is easily, you know, the top 5% of the world. Even the poorest of Singapore have a roof over the head, right? So and people are getting them to be more empowered financially One very interesting trend when it comes to fintech in the rest of Southeast Asia, right, is that, so for example, there are farmers in, let's say, Indonesia, and they are getting the farmers not giving them loans or not coming in to say, oh, we are a new digital bank, or we are Aspire, or we are like funding societies or whatever, and we want to give you a loan, right? But we empower you with a particular machinery. So for example, we give you a tractor, right? And the tractor belongs to us. You can do whatever you want with the tractor, but one day we realize that you start to be lazy and you start to decide to not work, then we'll take back the tractor, right? And then you go back to your poverty ways. So okay, not really so cruel, but yeah, but then we'll give you a tractor, and we expect you to work for yourself and earn more income for yourself in a more productive way, rather than just waiting for handouts every day from I don't know, from all the charities that visit you once a year, right? I think that's one thing that I see when it comes to finance for social good, and which is what brought the idea of the social side of Shopee, right? Because when during COVID-19 we saw that people lost their jobs and all that, and the immediate solution, of course, a lot of people will be like, oh, so poor thing, how can we give them handouts, for example, or can we give them cash to tide over? That doesn't solve the problem, right? You always have the saying of, you teach a man to fish, so you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day. You teach him to fish, he can eat forever, right? So which is why we decided to work with social workers and say, hey, could you tell us what your beneficiaries need to go through and empower themselves to go through this difficult time. So yeah, I think that people are getting more, so to summarize, right, people are getting more aware of fintech for social good isn't just giving money and moving money around in whatever smart ways you want to move money around, in whatever creative accounting ways you want to move money around, right? It's not just that, but it's about fundamentally, in a non-financial way, empower people as well, who initially we thought may be less fortunate.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear your passion about fintech is not being only used for financial supports, and also we can see the surge of social enterprises nowadays that everyone talks about sustainability, talks about helping the environment, and they often like don't have the capital necessary for to achieve their goals basically. And I think your platform is
So I think maybe I'll just add on one very quick point, is that people are getting more and more aware about the concept of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. But that is only happening, at the top of the pyramid. The rest of the pyramid is still very day-to-day means, right? So if you go and tell any auntie in your HDB void that, hey, auntie, this can must recycle, then the auntie probably tell you, no recycle, no time, that kind of thing. Where awareness about ESG is still not as widespread. So and that's just the case for any social cause, because when it comes to tech, right? Because when it comes to adoption, it takes 5, 15, 20 years, maybe even for the whole social sector to eventually adopt tech as well. Yeah, but it is slowly. Hopefully, it will speed up. And that's what I'm observing, that the speeding up is starting because of more people coming out with tech solutions.
Yeah, that's nice, because if SMEs or let's say NPO are not really concerned about their financials, they can deliver their impacts with more focus, I guess. And are you interested in expanding your funding to Brook College students like us? Maybe there's
Oh yeah, sure. If you are a deserving person, if you are talking about you as a recipient of funding, right? If you are a deserving person who passes the criteria of a social worker, and you have one particular item for us to fund, why not?
Yeah, cannot look for that to happen in the future. And next, maybe Fengru and Max, you can tell more about your industry. And
I'll tell you what, this area like I said, this area is really, really amazing. You guys know food security here in Singapore is such a big deal. We kind of saw that through this COVID period when everything got wiped off the shelves very early on. So Singapore pushed this 30 by 30 initiative where they want to be able to have 30% of their nutritional needs right here in Singapore. And there's a big reason for it because there's a really real concern, sorry guys, that this could happen again, and it could be a worse situation in the future. So aside from that, sustainability is a huge deal. The entire food system is going through a transformation. Over the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see everything completely changed. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening. There's cell-based meats, cell-based chickens. You probably have already heard of Beyond and Impossible and so forth. That's just the first wave. The second wave is much, much more powerful. And I think will have a much more of a lasting impact and make that big transformation in the entire space. I think food's going to become much more, the supply chain is going to change. It's going to become much more local. You're going to be able to have bioreactors and bioprocessing systems much closer. In the industry itself, even when it comes to alcohol, just this morning I was looking at a company who's using a type of a bioprocessing to create aged whiskey that nobody thought you could do any other way, but they found a technology that can actually do this in a few days instead of years. So, and all in a controlled environment. That's one example. They're able to use microbes, they're able to use fermentation cells to recreate a lot of the foods that we're used to, but do it in a much more sustainable way. For us, listen, for us, we're in the dairy industry. It is actually the biggest. Many people don't even realize it's a $700 billion a year industry, one of the biggest. And here in Singapore, everything's imported, right? You're dealing with Fonterra in New Zealand, or you're going to Europe to get all of these dairy products to bring them in. So for us, we can envision here in Singapore, imagine if we had a plant somewhere using biotechnology to create real milk. And from that, you can make all of these dairy products that you're already used to. And that is something that we are working on. This has caught the attention of some of the biggest global investors. We currently have the Prince of Saudi Arabia. We have a multi-billion-dollar family office out of the UK. We have the pension. We have the entire government sovereign fund of Australia behind this. Everybody recognizes the potential of what we are able to do with this technology. And it's really wonderful to be a big part of it. But the entire food tech space is really exciting. And I always encourage anyone who's interested to get involved.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear about. You say about the sustainability issue with current food production, because there are a lot of, like, I see video online. It's like cows are not slaughtered in a very good way, or animal welfare is also a concern in this bit. And also when you say about the COVID-19 situation as well, then like countries like Singapore with lack of natural resources, it will be good and sustainable if we can have our own resources. Like we need our own sources for.
I mean, everything is becoming a tech company, right? It seems like even food is becoming biotech. But I mean, it's a really crazy thing to imagine a country like Singapore, who imports everything, including dairy, can someday become the dairy hub of the world, the technology center of the world that's pushing out the latest dairy products globally. That's I think is the promise of tomorrow.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, and this space is just getting heated up. We do see a lot of excitement, a lot of people being more conscious about what they're eating, and wanting the opportunity to make their own choices. So even this morning, we heard the news that Bob Iger, he used to be the CEO of Disney. He just joined a novel food tech company, Perfect Day, as well. So it's really good for the industry that we have a lot of hard hitters that are joining the food industry to bring in more investment, more knowledge, and getting people to learn more and make the right choices.
Okay, maybe we can, yeah, I mean, I think it's truly exciting to hear like tech companies out there striving their best to create social impact other than just, advancing technology for no purpose. Like we can hear FNA, which provides IT solutions using the digital twins to help manufacturers to improve their businesses. Then Swappy also doing an amazing job to use fintech to empower SMEs and social workers to have fundings, and also Turtle Tree Labs. They do a really amazing job by providing an alternative solution to the current sustainable dairy production, and also to overcome the supply chain challenges that we encounter now during the COVID-19 pandemic. And with the drive to create impact, how important is creating impact for you, and how do you measure it in your businesses? Maybe we can, yeah, Joanna, you can start answering that question. Yeah, how important is creating impact to you?
Essentially, I think like, okay, to create impact, like personally for me, I think it's extremely important. And I, in general, find like, time in life, right, is actually very limited. So if you wake up and just do like things which you're not really interested in, then I rather you do it, because I think it's more important to make the like really concise, strict choices of how you want to spend your time. So for me, like creating impact, and in particularly like like to really make a change in someone's life, or in something, like I mentioned before in the previous example about children's hospitals. Like if like we create a certain technology such that the kids are able to wear certain medical equipment and go home faster, I think that's really important, because kids are not like adults, right? They don't follow instruction, and my kid looks at like those cartoon characters and they love it. And something as simple as that, I think technology is important because it helps to how do you say, make things inclusive. It helps to make things accessible, even for people who are unable to actually get to that certain point. So for me I think businesses are always driven by profit and revenue, and that's true. But I think as individuals in a company, everyone needs to figure out for themselves that the work they do, whatever, if it's a startup or if it's a corporate, that it needs to make sense to them, regardless of anything else. So I mean, that's just my personal philosophy. We could all make work for money, of course, and that's why we also work as well, of course. Yeah, but that's just my way of thinking.
That's kind of true. And also maybe among your clients, they often face this dilemma, right? Like
yeah, especially COVID, right? Because it's like now all the companies, they are, yeah, it's a struggle, right? It's everyone wants to get through in terms of survival. We used to be driven by profits, and then now everyone's looking at, okay, we need to survive and get past this whole next 2-3 years together. Make sure that we have good balance sheet, make sure we do not fall into debt, make sure we don't go bankrupt. So our clients, our customers have the same thing, right? They want to figure out what's the best way to cut costs. At the same time, we don't want them to just fire everyone, right? So it's always a cost and benefit analysis, which people have to do.
Okay. And actually, what do you see about like balancing this impact and the drive for profit? And also maybe you can share like one concrete example of the impact that you see from
that's very difficult. If you ask a corporate, that's very difficult, I can tell you. I've actually worked in corporates, my whole life, like MNCs. MNCs are always profit driven. We always have, a certain part of the company looking at like sustainability, corporate responsibility. We even have a whole department looking at responsible AI, for example. But at the end of the day, I can tell you, like, for corporates, 95% of the corporation, or even 99% of the corporation, will look at, you know, what makes money. So basically, very profit driven. So for me, I think personally, it's like individuals in the company just would need to have their own personal vision or what makes sense to them.
See, okay, thanks for your answer, Joanna. I think
problem.
quite interesting to hear about your view about dilemma between impact and business growth.
Yeah, startups are much different. So I'm very interested to hear what the rest think.
Actually, if I may jump in, I think Microsoft is actually doing a pretty good job when it comes to improving their impact or their footprint on the planet. The fact that they are trying out the underwater data centers, that was incredible. I'm not sure what it does to heating up the sea temperatures, but I feel like there is a lot of effort amongst the tech companies, Google included, Facebook, is starting to become very important for these companies to run data centers that have that have a zero impact. So basically, they run on renewables, and I think all of these companies they have a goal by the year 2030 or so on. They will have a renewable, fully run on renewables. So in that sense, I think most of the companies are doing a lot to try to make this happen. As I would quote Paul Pullman, right? We've come to a point where it doesn't make sense to not do things the right way anymore. It makes more sense to do things the right way because it's starting to cost us money, to harm the environment, to not care about what kind of impact we are causing this planet. Especially for welcoming the next billion people onto the planet, everyone is are starting to become more aware. If not, all hands on deck to turn things around.
I see. And yeah, I think it would be also interesting to hear about this dilemma from Kang as a founder and CEO of Swappy with your company. Maybe you can share your thought about this.
Okay. Yeah, I think I am fortunate enough to not run into a major dilemma so far of, you know, oh, I have a client that asked me to harm the environment, for example, right? but I think I would say if we take 10 steps back and look at Milton Friedman's theory, right, that the social responsibility of a company is to make profits. I think that still stands true. But I think now we just need to add that, you know, with capital, you need to take care of labor. So from an economic perspective, so that would mean that, you know, they need to make profits, but not at the expense of other people. So Friedman did include this back in 1970. But I think personally, if you ask me about how important I think impact is, right? On a personal level, if I'm given the choice, like today Destiny stands in front of me and asks me, do you want a $1 billion unicorn, or do you want to run a like $5 million startup, but that $5 million startup could, you know, empower 200 kids every year to, you know, break out of poverty cycle? I would choose the $5 million 200 kids, right? Because I think if we live our life earning money for ourselves and not actively empowering people, then that's a life not well lived. Because and then you can always argue, oh, you can earn the $1 billion and then you donate money and all that, but and then that comes I mean, impact comes in, right, where, you know, how ideally in the most ideal world, how I would measure impact is, for example, you know, today if we buy 10 school bags for 10 kids, example, I mean, let's say without school bags, they cannot go to primary 1, right? So we empower 10 kids to go to primary 1, and out of these 10 kids, maybe 8 of them drop out of primary school, secondary school, whatever, and 2 of them manage to get to university. I think ideally, if we can track this, that would be perfect in an ideal world. right? But sadly, we're not always able to do that. So yeah, I think impact is about. I mean, for me, impact is about empowerment. Okay, maybe that's because my worldview of social good is about people, less on environment. But if you ask me about environment, I would say yeah, I don't know how to measure environmental impact. But if you ask me how do I measure social good, social services impact, I would say it's empowerment. It's about how whether you are able to enable the less fortunate to think out of, to kind of break out of a cycle. I wouldn't say in Singapore we have poverty cycle, but break out of a reliance on social services kind of cycle.
Yeah, I agree with you that yeah, because in the end, what drives growth is the people itself. So we need to empower the people. Hence, we can have a sustainable growth.
Yeah,
that's good. That's a good point there. And yeah, Max, can you share more about your?
Sure. Listen, all of you young folks in here, you're a very special generation. Very many of you will not chase the money. Many of you will do things that you believe will make this a better world. And that's really brilliant. That's really where we've come to in society, where many of these young folks are choosing careers, choosing their path based off of how they believe they can make an impact. For myself, it came in the form of starting this company, bringing this team together, using my experience, my knowledge to be able to build a very strong team that can do something around sustainability. But there's business folks in here as well. So let me tell you something that I truly believe in. You can make a lot of money and still do a lot of good at the same time. So this is very important to think. You don't have to choose between making money and doing something right for this planet. Elon is an example of it. There's a lot of other great folks out there who are examples of who making great impact and also doing business for good. Something that I enjoy talking a lot about. If any of you ever want to talk about this later on in the future, always welcome to reach out to me. I love discussing this topic. But yeah, for me, impact is doing what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think more I think about it, impact and making money is like not something that is like entirely separate. You can also create impact by generating a lot of money. But yeah, we need to always remember what's the main goal in what we are doing and in our career, of course. And Fengru, do you have anything else to add other than your responses? You can share.
Yeah, echoing Mac's comment, I think it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. I think they can cohabit together. Unilever is doing a lot of good, although they are earning a lot of money. So is Google. It's organizing the world's data, helping us to find the information that we need. I mean, during tsunamis, during terrible times, we do have Facebook as well, who are connecting us to the right resources. So it's about seizing every opportunity, finding out when and how our technology can serve a certain group of people at a certain point in time. But we just have to think outside the box. It doesn't have to be exclusive.
We have spent some time talking about the present, right? Like what is the current trend in your industry that's exciting, and also the current dilemma that businesses are facing. And let's talk about the future. Like maybe you can share what are going to be the challenges or even like potentials in the future in your industry. We can start with Joanna.
Okay, so I thought quite hard about this question. And I think actually the truth is the biggest challenge is actually having people left behind more than anything else. I mean, just look at how crazy fast technology is changing. I mean, literally everyone in my company and my team right now has to keep like up to date with all the latest technologies. Like every year, I don't know, hundreds of new services come out in the IoT space. You know, there's new techniques, there is like all these different microservices, and it's like it's so easy to be left behind. It's so easy to be obsolete. It's, you know, like you guys are super young, which is great, right? And learn super fast. And you know, the world is literally an oyster. So I think that part is great, but you know, let's just also step back and also think of like, you know, how about like a lot of people out there, right? How about the jobs and you know, livelihoods and all that. So while technology I think is a good thing and it makes things many things super accessible, one I think societal problem would probably be, you know, in terms of how everything is changing and how, you know, parts of the society is just, you know, probably going to be left behind at a certain point. And I think that's also a cost for the government, right? Having to make sure that everyone gets educated, to try to push people to the right direction and stuff. One thing which I quite like about Avanade, you know, I'm in this company for a year now, is they also look into like different spaces where people like you don't really look. So for example, right, we partnered with the autistic society to actually bring in testers who are autistic, because you know they make fantastic testers. Yeah, so I think that's one thing which is very nice for a corporate to actually do. Another thing which, you know, they look into is also to promote, for example, like minorities and women in the technology space, because essentially, well, there's not super many of us, because when I was in university, there was I don't know, there was three females in my whole class, for example, you know, stuff like that. So I think being inclusive is something which is super important, and it's going to be a big challenge, the way I see it. Yeah, that's all.
If I can I add on to that, because I'm an AI buff. I love tech stuff. This is something that I've actually put a lot of time into and thought into as well. I also do believe that the future, we need to be careful about how AI transforms a lot of these industries. One of the things I talked to you guys very early on before the official discussion was how many of you guys are actually in college studying something right now. Many of these careers will be transitioning and changing dramatically because of AI and machine learning. And you will realize that what you're doing today will be very different in 5 or 10 years from now. So be prepared as individuals and students to be a lifelong learner and continue to reinvent yourself. You're going to have to do that. That is the future. The days when our grandparents, where they did one thing for their entire life, those days are going to be over now as a result. I do worry about how some of the older generation will have a difficult time transitioning, like she mentioned, but I know many of you will be able to.
I see. Yeah, thanks for the sharing, Joanna, and yeah, adding Max. And how about you, Kang? What do you think is the future of the fintech marketplace industry?
Yep. I think I mentioned, right. They're just going to reach more and more rural bottom of pyramid places in be it Indonesia, Africa, wherever. But I also want to. I think in general that's a trend that would spread for normal fintech. But yeah, I also want to echo what Joanna and Max mentioned, right, about people being left behind, right, and us students or young people or whoever, you know, be needing to change and pivot along the way. So I think people are going to be left behind because the developed areas like us, right, we are going to get so saturated with tech, and there's going to be an abundance of tech solutions. So, you know, like from the 1980s till now, we've been having an abundance of goods and food and shelter and cars and property and whatever, right? But that abundance is going to change into abundance of tech. And then the people who are, and tech is going to be a necessity, right? Tech solutions are going to be a necessity. And the people who are left behind are those who are going to be struggling for tech as a day-to-day necessity, be it, you know, don't have enough smartphones, or, you know, the apps that are developed for their phones are not compatible, right? So I think that's one trend. And if we look more at the organizational level, one thing that I'm realizing, but I'm not very sure yet, is that the charities and the social service scene, right, is going to be left behind as well, as compared to the rest of the industries who have already adopted tech. And I think I'm not sure, what kind of solution could help charities and social service organizations adopt tech faster, but they urgently need to adopt tech faster. If not, that gap is going to get bigger and bigger, right? For example, if World Wildlife Fund is not using a particular AI solution to identify which ocean needs help, then it's going to be very difficult for them to address that particular ocean real time right away, as compared to Google could identify a data lake within milliseconds, right? So so I think it's not just a gap between individuals or societies, but a gap between organizations as well. And I think for students, for your future, I think there needs to be a lot of mindset changes, right? Always relearning, always being open to switching careers even, right? And Max was mentioning, he switched careers at least 2 times, right? Kind of like you just need to be ready for a really drastic change, like in the case of Max, uproot himself and come to Singapore, right? And I think beyond that, the entire mindset is that gone are the days where you work for one employer and the employer takes care of all your benefits like it's an entitlement. I think we need to start to learn how to look at our employers as our clients. And you don't go to if you're a freelancer, you don't go to the client and say, oh, I'm going to sell you my time and it starts from 40 hours a week. No, right? you go to if you're a freelancer, you go to a client and say, oh, I'm going to sell you my time for a minimum of 2 hours, right? And then if you want 4 hours, you pay for 4 hours. If you want 8 hours, you pay for 8 hours. You don't go to as a freelancer, you don't go to a client and say, oh, I'm going to sell you 40 hours only. So so I think in terms of your career trajectory, be ready to have a career where you may not have a fixed employer.
Sure. Can I add a little bit something to that, to the fintech industry?
Yeah.
I do believe the fintech industry is going to change a lot of lives. When you talk about the 5 or 10 years into the future, personally, I can see a future where it will be very, very much of a cashless society. This is really where things are heading. If you looked at this coronavirus issue and what that's accelerated, this is one of those things. China, many areas are entirely cashless. Stores are basically doing a system where you don't need to actually use your credit card anymore. So when it comes to the fintech side, I see a lot of automation, and I see even some of the poorest people in the world are all going to be in somewhat of a cashless system at some point in the future. And to be honest with you, this is what the governments want too. They have much more control over the funds that are being transferred back and forth and changing hands. So I do see this being the future.
That is definitely going to happen. And then it's just about who is left behind again, right? And whether everyone in this room feels for them and is going to take an action for it against it.
I feel like there could be a group that is left behind. I mean, for all of mankind, it's all relative, right? But at the same time, I feel that tech, I've seen it has actually opened up a lot of opportunities for the marginalized and the people with less opportunities, just because in the past you need to lay landlines just to be able to access a phone. But these days with the handset, any person in the middle of a small town can access the network and start selling stuff. I mean, I'm sure everyone has heard of the guy who buys stuff from Taobao, sell on Amazon, and made a tidy sum from these opportunities. So I do believe technology, it's quite enabling. I see a lot of good opportunities as long as the marginalized ones to exploit it as well. I mean, if they are open to it, there are a lot of opportunities out there.
This is why there's such a huge initiative to get internet to all parts of the world. They're trying to get much more internet to areas where currently it's very difficult to get access to. But in our area, for the food sector, as I mentioned earlier in the discussion, over the next 5 to 10 years, we see a massive change. We see a lot of new foods that are coming onto the market. We see much more sustainability. One of the things that I hear a lot from investors even is, hey, do you think that people are going to accept this new cell-based food or this other plant-based food or whatever? And I'm always happy to answer this because it's not whether of acceptance. The young folks these days, there's more, but they will expect the corporations to have sustainable products. It's no longer about acceptance. They can see the damage that's happening around them, and they're going to push many of these giant companies to make that change. It's already happening. Some of the biggest dairy companies in the world have been reaching out to us, or they themselves are innovating. They're all looking at how they can transition their products into a more sustainable way because their consumers are holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and driven from the consumers, I think a lot of initiatives by the governments are quite crucial. Singapore is one of them. The UAE government, I know their food security minister, she is pushing very hard for food tech companies to set up shop in the Middle East to help produce some of these foods in country. Another good example is the Netherlands. So it's a very small country, but it's known as the Food Valley of Europe. It's the largest, second largest exporter of food, of agricultural food in the world, second only to the US. And how did that happen? It is through technology. So as much as we can say, we need to be able to think of new ways, be creative on how we can adopt technologies to feed the next billion people.
I think as enablers and future enablers and change makers, right? For the rest in this room, we also have to be wary on the potential downsides, right? The potential evils of that technology would bring, because if let's say you work on a project that brings internet to 1 billion people, and how can you be sure that they don't use the internet for vices, right? For gambling, for whatever, just to watch TikTok videos, to watch pornography, to do whatever, right? How can you be sure that they don't get bad influences from the internet? You can't. And it's the onus upon you, it's the social responsibility upon you to make sure that they don't serve TikTok or porn or gambling. I would guess pretty much so, right? You don't just give the technology, you also need to educate and empower on how to use the technology for real better good, and not just and not let them have a technology that they would go into a downward spiral.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Yeah, I think the tech industry, well, it's changing rapidly. Yeah, of course, like everything else in the world does, like pluses and minuses. Like maybe in the changing, like the ever-changing environment makes us often left behind, but it also provides more opportunity. It just depends on us how to seize the opportunity and be responsible for it. Wow. Yeah, thank you very much for the insightful discussion. And yeah, actually there are a lot of stuff that we can discuss and we can talk about this all night, but unfortunately we have reached the end of the panel segment. And yeah, I truly thank you all for your insightful comments on the topics. And before we start the Q&A, let's have a short presentation from our Google Crowdsource ambassador. So yeah, Yugas V, the time is yours.
Hi everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Hi, really happy to be here today and be talking amongst everyone. So I think it's a great privilege. I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay for my presentation. Yeah. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So hi everyone. I'll be talking a little bit about Crowdsource by Google. And I'm really happy to be talking talking about it in a context of tech for good, because I really feel like crowdsource is something which can be used to really impact a lot of people and really help make a change. So a little bit about myself first. My name is Yogasvi, and I'm a year 4 computer science student. So I'm not an expert, unlike the distinguished guests that we have here. I'm just like any one of you guys. And I joined the Crowdsource Influencer program a few months ago. And I joined it because I felt like talking about crowdsource is something which can really make a difference, because a lot of people don't know about it. And it's really important that we build this community in Singapore as well. And why it's important, we'll go through that in a little bit. So I think one of the speakers was talking a little bit about Google's mission. So before we get into crowdsource, I just want to talk about Google's mission a little bit. So Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. I think the key point here is really making information accessible and useful, because there might be a lot of information out there, but if it's not useful and relevant to people, or if it's in a language that people can't understand, then it doesn't really make sense, right? It's not really useful for people. So this is where crowdsource actually comes in to help with Google's mission. So, okay, I just want to know, first of all, like, how many of you guys have heard of crowdsource before this? If you have, just like raise your hand or something.
I have.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's great. That's great. Because usually when I talk about it, it's like people haven't really heard of it or don't really know what it's about. So that's cool to know that people actually know about it. So that's great. So for those who don't know about it, I'm just going to be sharing a really short video, which will kind of introduce you guys to what Google Crowdsource is all about and how it's helping to make a difference in people's lives. So I'm gonna, okay, let me know if you can't hear it or can't see my screen at any point.
You've heard of machine learning, but what is it? Machine learning is a technique that allows computers to acquire looking at several examples, instead of through sets of rules. Machine learning makes it easier for you to do things every day, like searching for photos of what you love, speaking to anyone in any language, and getting you exactly where you want to go, anywhere in the world. So how do machines learn? In machine learning, computers find, identify, and learn common patterns through sets of data. For example, showing a computer many images of cars teaches it how to recognize a car in any picture. The more variety of car images we show it, the better it gets at recognition. That's why your contributions to the Crowdsource app are important. They help create and verify accurate examples for computers to learn, which in turn enables features that benefit everyone. When you verify image labels, you help apps like Google Photos and Google Lens get better at classifying photos and identifying objects. When you label the sentiment of sentences, you help Google Maps and Google Play organize reviews in your language. When you verify translations, you help Google Translate make more accurate translations in your language. So your favorite apps get better for everyone, thanks to you. As part of the global crowdsource community, you're joining contributors in your country and throughout the world to contribute millions of examples. Your responses are combined with thousands of other users' answers to determine a best response, which is called ground truth. The ground truth is fed to machine learning models that find patterns to learn specific skills, such as how to identify cars in a photo or how to translate from one language to another. What a machine learns is limited by the data it's given. If we develop an image recognition algorithm with images from only a small part of the world, it will only recognize objects from that part of the world. In order for apps like Photos to work well for everyone, we must train machines using images from every part of the world. By using Crowdsource, you're representing your region, language, and opinions in training data. Thank you for being a part of the community.
Okay, so yeah, that was a really quick video. So that's all about crowdsource. My time's up. I'm kidding. So I hope that was a bit gave you a bit more insight about what Google Crowdsource is all about. So as we've talked about, and we all know, AI is really everywhere. And AI is really helping in really cool and exciting ways to achieve Google's mission. So, it's being used in Google Search, Google Photos, Translate, and Google Assistant to kind of make it easier for people to navigate, to search about different images, to translate from one language to the other. So it's really helping a lot of people achieve things that weren't possible before. So all this is possible because AI is helping them do so, and AI is being powered by data. But the issue is that AI is only as good as the data behind it. So in order for AI to have the greatest impact on people and to help people, we need to build it with everyone's needs and needs in mind. Yeah. So to kind of emphasize on this issue, let's talk about a few examples. So at any point, just feel free to unmute yourself and shout out some of the answers, because I think that will make this really fun. So when you search for an image on Google Photos by typing the word bride, the following is a picture of a bride that it can recognize. So what do you guys think will be a photo of a bride that Google Photos can recognize? Anyone? Like, what do you think a bride looks like?
Someone with a white gown, yes.
Yeah, you're right. So, a white woman wearing a white dress is what Google Photos recognizes as a bride. But this is not true for all parts of the world. Like, even in Singapore, we have so many different races and cultures, and each one of them have their different traditional wedding attire. So if we think about it, Google Photos won't be able to recognize this as an image of a bride, a traditional a woman wearing a traditional Indian wedding dress, or a woman wearing a traditional Chinese wedding dress. So the issue is that we need to make data more diverse and unbiased towards the West, because currently a lot of the data that Google uses is from the West. So another issue which kind of highlights this is, like, for example, if you search an image of pancakes in your Google photo libraries, it can recognize what a pancake is. Trust me, I've tried to do it. But if you try to search for something like prata, it doesn't know what prata is, because it hasn't been trained to recognize what prata is. It knows what pancakes, but it doesn't know what's prata. So we need to make the data more locally relevant, so that the AI and machine learning models are able to recognize things like this, which are very specific to a particular region or a particular culture. So to kind of emphasize on this issue of, nuances in different images that only locals understand, let's play a quick little game. So if you know the answer, just unmute yourself and shout out. So it's just very easy. It's just spotting the difference. So does anyone know what's this image, like the first image?
Laksa.
Okay, laksa, but what kind of laksa?
I think the right one is Assam laksa, and the left one is just like the normal one in Singapore.
Right. So yeah, so this one is a Singaporean laksa, and this one is an Assam Penang laksa. So okay, yeah, you guys know your laksa pretty well. Okay, so another example would be this. What's the difference between these two images? I'm sorry if you guys haven't had your dinner. Sorry for making you hungry. So what's this image? The first image, and what's the second image?
One is
I
Maggie.
Sorry?
I don't know what's the term here, but left one seems to be Maggie, and the right one seems to be, I don't know, Bihun.
Okay, there are two types of
Hokkien
Hokkien mee.
One Penang Hokkien mee, and the other one is just like the normal Hokkien mee. Right?
yeah, you know.
Yeah, then I know.
Yeah, so one of them is Malaysian and one of them is Singaporean. So this is something that somebody from this part of the world would only be able to recognize. So that's why your perspective is really important when it comes to data. So another one would be this. Okay, this is just a joke. I mean, we know this is a dog and this is a cookie. it's very clear to us, but maybe to a machine, it's not so clear. I need you to train the data set to recognize it. Yeah. So to kind of emphasize on this lack of diversity issue, this is like a really interesting statistic. So there are actually 9 million images which are available, have been made available publicly under the Creative Commons license maintained by Google. There's 9 million images. Can you guys guess what percentage of these 9 million are images from India and China? Just shout out a random guess.
60.
60, okay. Anybody else?
95.
Okay. Okay, let's get one more guess. Then we can figure out who's the closest.
40.
Sorry?
40.
40. Okay, okay. So actually, the number is less than 3%. So less than 3% of 9 million images are from India and China. So the countries with the largest populations in the world are only being represented like less than 3%. So if you think about countries like Vietnam or Japan or Kenya, you can imagine that the number is actually very, very minuscule. And that is the problem that crowdsource is trying to address. So to tackle this problem, we need to get millions and millions of images from all over the world to train the machine learning models. Only then will it be relevant to people in different parts of the world, coming from different regions, countries, cultures. So to help train ML data, we need local insight, as I've said before. So for us, it's very easy to recognize what are the different kinds of prata: egg prata, cheese prata, mushroom prata. This is only recognizable by somebody who's familiar with the local cuisine, and only then will be able to confidently name each type. A computer doesn't know this, so that's why we have to provide this insight. Even for languages, if there's a general lack of content on the web in languages other than English. So if you think about Googling something like Allosaurus in English, it really triggers a rich panel of a lot of information, a lot of data. But if you Google the same thing in Tamil, it's really very bare bones, and you will probably get nothing in hill languages like Azerbaijani. So this is also important for sentiment analysis, because the kind of activity or the kind of thing that I would describe as exciting or fun or scary would be very different from you or people from other parts of the world, because it really depends on who you ask. And there is no single ground truth for subjective opinions. It really varies according to region, demographic, geography, etc. So we've kind of gone through a lot about why there's a lack of diversity. We need to solve this diversity problem, and that's why Google Crowdsource comes in. So with Google Crowdsource, we really need your help in making Google products work more inclusively, and so that it knows more about our culture, our region, our language. And by doing this, we make Google products more relevant to the people around us, to Singaporeans even. So when we contribute to crowdsource, it helps products like Google Translate, Google Photos, Google Lens really improve and work better for people. So the crowdsource, you can use crowdsource in two different ways. There's the app on Android, and there's also a web app if you don't have an Android device. It basically works in a way that it's a really like fun gamified UI. And you kind of answer quick questions, and that helps to generate training data for machine learning models. So I think it will be great if really quickly you guys can go and download the Google Crowdsource app from the Play Store. It's fine if you don't have an Android device. If you have an iPhone, you can just use the web app. So I'll just give you like a minute to go and download it real quick, because then I can show you guys how to use it. Yeah, I'll just give you a really quick minute. Okay, please download it. It's very fun. It's very easy to do. It's really like something you can do while waiting for the shuttle bus, if you're waiting for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes even, or waiting for your food. It's really something. Yes, sorry.
While they're doing that, I'm such a troublemaker, so I hope you don't mind me saying.
Sure.
what is the incentive here? Why are we doing all this data mining for Google? This is why they paying you or so forth? Because a lot of competition out there when it comes to this type of stuff. Microsoft, for example, I know TikTok, all of these other companies, they're all looking for this type of data. You guys are basically asking people to download this app and to spend their time trying to help them with their own algorithms for free. What is the incentive there? Why would that be something that's so enticing for one company over the other?
Okay, I think that's a very relevant point. That's something which is brought up really often. There is no monetary incentive that Google offers when people contribute to the app. It's more of, as this talk is about social good, so it's really kind of they want to drive home the fact that by doing so, you're helping to make a change in Google products that everybody is using.
Well, it's driving their share prices up, and it's giving them more of a competitive edge over other competitors.
Yeah, that's a valid point. That's a valid point, but I think for the common man, if they weren't able to use for example, for people who can't read or write, Google products are like something like Google Lens is really able to help them, point their screen at a piece of text and then it reads out to them. So to them, it really is changing their lives. And if they can contribute and give back and help to make a change in something which has changed their life, I think it's really important for some people. I definitely agree that this is not something everybody would do. A lot of people come to this app and say, what's the benefit? Do I get something? Do I get a badge? Do I get money? Do I get rewards? And that's not the point that we're trying to make. I think the point is really...
It's free data, basically.
For Google, yes.
For Google, it's free data. And I guess, why don't they have so much money. They pay for all kinds of other stuff. Why don't they pay people, incentivize them a little bit to do some of this work? Because I know that it's not cheap for them to do this mine the data themselves. So for having everybody else do this for them, isn't it a bit fair for their competitors?
I think what they are relying on is the goodwill of people and people wanting to make a change for good. So those are really very relevant points. When I first got into it, I was like, why would people want to do that? For example, uni students, why would you want to do that? But for a lot of people, especially those who aren't, doing a lot of other things, it's really like a fun game also in a way. Like I know people from Indonesia, there's a lot of Indonesian people who are so passionate about it. They contribute hundreds and thousands of contributions like every single day because they really feel like they're making a change. And with the community, it kind of rallies the spirit and, they are leveling up and they're competing with each other. Oh, I'm level 15, I'm level 20. And then you get to be featured on like their Facebook page and stuff like that. You get to attend Google's workshops and stuff. So there is kind of an incentive when you do a lot for them. But of course, in the beginning, like there's no monetary incentive. Like, okay, you do 10 contributions, you get X dollars or X cents or whatever.
Would you do this for a Chinese app like TikTok or even say other apps that are out there as well between Google, Grab and Gojek for free?
Would I do it personally?
Yeah.
If I may jump in, Max.
Told you.
So, I was from Google, right? Max, I'm sure all of us have benefited from a Google product. You use Maps every day. You use it to search for things. You use it to search for images, products. All the products that you have used is because of contributions from the community. And you don't have to do it, but people who want to do it, they can do it. And
I think it's the same reason.
Thanks for coming in and saving me a little bit.
I think it's the same reason why people contribute to open source code, right?
Yeah, exactly, Max.
But
have you used open source code before?
This is a revenue generating company. You're giving them a competitive edge. Their stock prices are going to go up higher because of that competitive edge. There's a lot of other people out there. I mean, Amazon, AWS, even Microsoft. Why are you not contributing the same amount to those companies?
They didn't ask for it. If they asked for it, I would go to www.crowdsource.microsoft.com and then buy their shares.
Joanne, this is good news for you. Let them know.
Well, to be honest with you, the moment I saw this, I was like, wow, people, they're getting all this data for free. And I'm actually trying to like get all this data to train up my algorithms.
No, but okay, if I quickly go through like what people are saying about it, okay, I'm just gonna skip through all this. But there's a lot of people who are like, it has changed their lives. Like they say, it has helped me learn this, learn that. I find it so enriching. I want to help make a change in people's lives. Google has been helping me for all these years. I want to help Google back. I made a change in Google. Like, it's very empowering to people knowing that they are making a change for Google. Yeah. So I think the motivation is different for different people, and it really depends on where they're coming from, the kind of privileges they've had or not had, in their lives, and kind of really helping to make an impact on something which has impacted their lives. Yeah.
I would love to hear from some of these other folks as well, but these days, everyone knows this, that data is gold. Data is the oil that makes AI run. So if you're giving away the data for free, you're doing all this work for free, you're helping these companies have a competitive edge. Don't you think there should be some type of an incentivization program or something that they should be able to do to have all this data sourced?
Max, this is where the storytelling of Google comes in. It's because everyone is doing good for the planet. They don't do evil. And we all have benefited from Google products. You heard of that boy who was an orphan. He was lost in India because of Google Maps. He found his way home when he was in his 30s. You yourself traveling to, say, Europe or China using Google Translate to communicate with the locals. All of us have benefited from Google products.
I'm okay with that. I'm just wondering, they have so much money. Why don't they incentivize people to do this data, to be able to source it?
Because they don't have to.
You're right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
actually,
think that's the point. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I think like when I first heard about Google crowdsource, like the common point of contention was also the fact that they're not offering monetary rewards because there's already a Google Opinions, I think. And Google Opinions actually gives like credits that you can use on the Play Store. So like I think possibly maybe in the near future, I could see crowdsource possibly offering like a similar form of incentive, maybe not like money, but maybe like Play Store credits. So I don't really know how long this kind of altruistic type of model might continue. And I think it's great, like as someone who I am in DSC and I'm also like involved in tech. So I think it's like great, but I understand that not everybody might feel that way. So I think like it's probably imminent that they will provide some sort of incentive one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe it's like, as Max was saying, once other companies kind of, try to jump on a bandwagon, then they might need to do that. But I think currently no one else is really kind of has this kind of program. So, and they are relying on people's goodwill and altruism to do this. And it is working for now. Let's see how far this goes. This is why I'm here kind of appealing to you kind souls to make a difference as well. Yeah.
Do they give you the university or so for some type of funds or anything for doing this, for promoting this?
What do I get as for doing this?
Maybe the university or so forth gets some type of in credits or incentives or something for promoting their private app.
No, I don't get anything. What I get is a chance to talk to a lot of people, a chance to be a part of a network of Googlers from all over the world, to get to be a part of a lot of workshops, stuff that probably everybody doesn't get to be a part of. So it's more about the networking opportunity, a platform to speak about something which you feel is a good cause. Those are the main. I'm not getting monetary compensation as well for doing this. So yeah, that's also for social good.
Cool.
So I think I did talk about some of the other things that I wanted to say. So yeah, it's personal. A lot of the motivation is personal for a lot of people. So this guy using Google Docs and speech recognition because his dad speaks Farsi. So he uses it because he wants to help his dad, because his dad uses Google products. So yeah, there's a lot of there's different motivations. it's fun, it's relaxing, it's a way to be a part of the community. It's a way to give gratitude to Google for all the services that they offer. So yeah, and we have a lot of people who are super passionate and super excited about all this, contributing like hundreds and thousands of contributions every single day. So yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
I think
What do you have to say, Max?
No. I say it's such a brilliant campaign. I think this is wonderful. They got so many people to give away so much data for free. And they actually have people actively going out there and helping build their data sources. Joan, you gotta learn from this. Microsoft used to do something like this as well.
Yes, absolutely. We are actually paying for this data.
No, that money should be paid to all these people who are actually doing this. That's just my feeling.
Okay. I
Sorry,
yeah.
I think some of the panelists need to leave because it's leave soon. So could we wrap it up really quick so we can take a photo and answer a few short questions? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, if you guys want to know more about it, you can reach out through any of these channels. You can reach out to me if you want to know more. You can get in touch with me. I'll put my contact details in the chat in a bit. So yeah, I hope you guys do contribute. I hope you guys find meaning in contributing. It's just something you can do whenever you're free. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Yay! Yeah. Thank you, Yugashvi. Now
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, since one of our speakers, Joanna, is going to leave soon, maybe I'm going to invite everyone to turn on their camera and we can take a picture together.
Okay, yes. Let me take a photo of you guys. Sorry, mommy duties. My baby, my baby really wants to sleep.
Okay, can everyone turn on your cameras? If you don't mind. Wait, let me stop the spotlighting.
Who's taking the photo? Can